This channel explores the contents of world-renowned masterpieces in the humanities. We are sustained by the unwavering interest and love of our subscribers and viewers. Subscribing, liking, setting notifications, and sponsoring are great sources of strength for the creator. Hello. Today, we will take a deep dive into Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. About the author Thomas Hardy. First, let's briefly look at the author, Thomas Hardy. Thomas Hardy (1840–1928) was an English novelist and poet born in a poor rural village in Dorset, England, as the son of a stonemason. Though he was trained as an architect and worked in that field for some time, his passion for literature led him to writing. Most of Hardy's novels are set in the southwestern part of England, which he fictionalized as Wessex. His works realistically depict the declining rural society and the suffering of ordinary people within it. His literary hallmark is a deep pessimism and a skeptical view of the cold fate, or cosmic irony, that dictates human happiness. Hardy criticized the rigid moral standards, the class system, and particularly the social double standards that were harsh toward women. His representative works include Far from the Madding Crowd, The Mayor of Casterbridge, the highly controversial Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and Jude the Obscure. As he grew older, the level of social criticism in his novels intensified. When Jude the Obscure faced extreme backlash for challenging the moral conventions of the time, Hardy gave up writing novels and devoted the rest of his life to poetry. He considered himself more of a poet than a novelist, and his vast body of poetry significantly influenced modernist poets. Hardy passed away on January 11, 1928, at the age of 87. After his death, his remains were interred in the Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey, England's highest honor. However, according to his will, his heart was buried separately, next to his first wife's grave in his hometown, a unique funeral arrangement. Hardy is evaluated as a giant of English literature, who perfected Victorian realism and established a modern pessimistic perspective. Introduction to Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Thomas Hardy's masterpiece, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, a pure woman faithfully presented, is set in rural Victorian England in the 19th century and tells the tragic story of Tess Durbeyfield, the daughter of a poor farmer. The core conflict and theme of this work revolve around Tess's relationships with two men and the oppressive social environment. It critically examines the rigid moral standards, class issues, and gender double standards of the time. This work is a profound masterpiece that serves as a critique of the massive external forces that define human life. Let's examine the structural details of this work. Part 1: Sowing the Seeds of Tragedy. The delusion of the D'Urbervilles and Tess's duty. Tess is a pure and beautiful daughter of a poor farmer, living in the idyllic village of Marlotte. The story begins when her father, John Durbeyfield, learns that they are descendants of the D'Urbervilles, a banished Norman noble family. While this fact seems to offer hope, the obsession with this vain lineage brings tragedy instead, after the family loses their only horse, Prince, in a sudden accident. Their financial burden becomes extreme. To help her family, Tess is sent to the estate of the wealthy Alec D'Urberville, under the pretext of visiting a relative. This is the first step into the trap of fate, Alec's seduction and the destruction of innocence. Alec is a member of the new bourgeoisie, who bought the surname D'Urberville with money. He becomes obsessed with Tess and relentlessly pursues her, eventually taking advantage of her poverty and ignorance. Ultimately, Alec violates her in the forest of the chase. Hardy ambiguously describes this event as an unfortunate chance, but most readers and critics interpret it as rape. This event acts as an external force of violence that determines all the misfortunes of Tess's life. Hardy asserts that while Tess's purity, in a social sense, is damaged, her inner purity remains intact. Tess later gives birth to an illegitimate child, but the child dies, and she returns home to face social prejudice. Part 2: The Golden Age and the Face of Double Standards. The death of the child and social stigma. Back in Marlotte, Tess gives birth to a son named Sorrow. She baptizes him herself, but he soon dies. Tess lives under the cold gaze and stigma of the villagers. This experience teaches her how cruelly social standards operate over individual morality. Talbothays Dairy and Angel Clare. Seeking a new life, Tess leaves for Talbothays Dairy. This is a lush, idyllic space full of vitality, where Tess temporarily forgets her past. There, she meets Angel Clare, an intellectual and idealistic gentleman. Angel falls in love with Tess, worshipping her as a goddess of nature. But he falls in love with an idealized image of her, still. Harboring narrow Victorian views on female chastity. Part 3. The climax: a marriage in ruin. Confession and catastrophe. On their wedding night, Tess finally confesses her past with Alec to Angel. Although Angel had just confessed to a past affair of his own, he cannot accept Tess's loss of virginity. This highlights the Victorian double standard: lenient for men, harsh for women. Angel rejects her, claiming she is no longer the woman he loved. Hardy subtitled the book, "A Pure Woman," to challenge this very judgment. Wandering in harsh reality, Angel leaves for Brazil. Tess, refusing to go home, moves to the bleak and desolate farm of Flintcomb Ash. The contrast between the abundance of Talbothays and the harshness of Flintcomb Ash symbolizes Tess's transition from hope to despair. Part 4. The conclusion: final resistance and the triumph of fate. Alec's reappearance and Tess's sacrifice. While Angel is away, Alec reappears, initially as a converted preacher. But he soon abandons his faith to pursue Tess again. Faced with extreme poverty and her family's suffering, Tess makes the tragic choice to become Alec's mistress as a final sacrifice to save her family. Murder and flight to Stonehenge. When a repentant Angel returns from Brazil to forgive her, Tess realizes what she has lost. In a final, desperate act of agency, she kills Alec and flees with Angel. This murder is her ultimate, violent resistance against the forces that oppressed her life. The tragic end. After a few days of fleeing, they reach Stonehenge. This ancient site represents a primordial space beyond human law and morality. It is here that Tess finds a brief moment of peace. Eventually, she is captured and executed. Hardy ends the tale with the cynical line, "The President of the Immortals had ended his sport," with Tess questioning whether her death was truly justice. In the end, Tess's younger sister, Liza Lou, leaves with Angel. Hardy describes her as a spiritual image of Tess, suggesting that Tess's purity might endure. Closing thoughts. Tess of the Durbeyfields is a tragic masterpiece that portrays a pure soul being crushed by a cold world. Tess's life is destroyed by fate, chance, and the pressures of a patriarchal society. By calling her a pure woman, Hardy attacks the hypocritical morality of his time. This novel remains an immortal classic that asks deep questions about human innocence and social justice. Subscribing, liking, setting notifications, and sponsoring are great sources of strength for the creator. Thank you for watching.